Ever since Egyptian astronomers first caught sight of Mars in 1534 BC, humanity has been fascinated by the mysterious red planet. Has it ever harbored life? What remains there today? Is there water on Mars? And why did the Golden Globes think The Martian was a comedy? We can't answer that last one. But let's explore the others and more in our list of the top 7 mysteries of Mars. Seven. Why so two-faced? Did you know Mars is two-faced? And not because it lied about cheating on us with Mercury, which we would totally understand. Mercury is super hot. No, Mars is two-faced because its northern and southern hemispheres are vastly different in terms of terrain. Whereas the southern hemisphere is craggy, rough, and full of craters, the northern hemisphere is as smooth as a baby's bottom. It's one of the flattest places in the solar system, and scientists are unable to explain why. But theories put forward include the possibility that a huge ocean covered this area, or that an object the size of Pluto must have hit Mars on its southernmost side at some point in its history. What we do know, however, is that Mars should definitely show its northern hemisphere when it comes to picture day. At 6. Ancient Martian oceans. In the late 19th century, Italian astronomer Giovanni Schiaparelli observed what he believed were canals on the surface of Mars, alluding to the presence of water and potentially life. This turned out to be an optical illusion, but geological examinations of the planet suggest that oceans and rivers were once abundant on its surface. In fact, a recent report by Planetary Science Institute's J. Alexis Palmero Rodriguez has uncovered sedimentary deposits which indicate that when Mars did have an ocean, it suffered from several huge mega-tsunamis caused by asteroid impacts. So if there was once intelligent life on the planet Mars, was a mega-tsunami to blame for wiping them out? 5. Is there water today? Water has been detected on Mars in the form of ice at the poles and at mid-latitudes. But is there any flowing water on the red planet today? Scientists didn't believe so at first, because Mars' atmospheric pressure is thought to be far too low to allow water to remain as a liquid on the surface for any significant period of time. But in September 2015, NASA confirmed that the rover Curiosity had discovered the presence of flowing water on Martian slopes during the warmest months of the year. This isn't water you could drink though, as it's unbelievably salty. It's actually a brine. You could preserve some fish in there maybe, but it's not something you'd want to gulp down on a hot day. Nevertheless, flowing water on Mars was still a major discovery, and scientists now believe that less salinated rivers or wells may also exist deep within the planet as groundwater. Number 4. Okay, who did it? In 2005, the European Space Agency's Mars Express detected small yet significant quantities of methane in the atmosphere of Mars. Methane can be produced by volcanic activity, but much of the methane in our own atmosphere is produced by life. And since neither cows nor human dads are prevalent on Mars, we don't know where this gas is coming from. Methane can only exist for around 300 years in the Martian atmosphere. So whatever is creating it has done so within the past few centuries, or alternatively, it is still producing it today. In March 2016, a joint mission by the Europeans and Russians resulted in the launch of the ExoMars Trace Gas Orbiter, and in October their lander, named after the Martian canal theorist Schiaparelli, will separate and touch down on the planet. The hope is that the Schiaparelli lander will help us understand where this methane is coming from, which raises the distinct possibility that October 2016 could be the date we finally find out, is there life on Mars? Which is in at number 3. The presence of water, the release of methane into the atmosphere, organic molecules detected by the Viking lander in 1975, the presence of formaldehyde found in 2005. Each of these on its own may not be enough to confirm that life definitely exists on the mysterious red planet, but when combined, This evidence makes a pretty compelling case that we could be closer than ever before to confirming the existence of extraterrestrial beings. However, there is a general consensus amongst the scientific community that if life does exist on Mars, it will be in the form of microorganisms such as methanogens, which probably live deep below the surface and therefore out of reach of the lander or any other Mars rover without drilling and deep sampling abilities. So you may think it unlikely that you'll ever meet a Martian in your lifetime, but in reality, you may be sat next to one right now, depending on the answer to the question, at 2. Is Mars our home planet? NASA currently holds a catalog of 34 Martian meteorites which have been discovered in Antarctica, Egypt, India, and various other sites around the globe. And there's a strange anomaly with at least 3 of them which points to a fascinating possibility. Billions of years ago, these meteorites were once part of Mars, ejected by the planet after other meteorites smashed into her surface. And when analyzed, they were found to contain strange tiny structures. Structures which are usually made by microbes which exist here, today, on Earth. The theory is that billions of years ago, Mars was once a habitable planet containing life, and a meteor originating from an impact there transported primitive microbes to our then lifeless world, kicking off the party for everything from roses to rhinos, gerbils to Germans, koalas, and Kardashians. Recent experiments to prove this theory have demonstrated that some microbes can endure a trip through outer space. And if true, it means that you, me, and your dog may not be Martians by birth, but we're all Martians by ancestry, although it probably won't show up on findmyfamilytree.com. And number 1, will we ever return? Humans have tried to form solid plans to visit Mars for decades. But we're too busy inventing the spork, fighting each other, and finding new ways to sit on our asses all day long. NASA originally hoped to not only visit the planet in 1981, but also have a base set up by 1988. This has been followed by a litany of unrealized manned Mars missions, including proposed ventures by the Russians, Europe, and the Chinese. So will we ever return to our alleged red home? I sure hope so, because what if when we came to Earth from Mars we accidentally left the oven on? At present, the US has scheduled a manned Mars mission for sometime in the 2030s, after abandoning George Bush's plan to return to the moon in 2020. Europe, Russia, and China, they all have plans to send humans to Mars, but with no concrete timetable as yet in place. There is also a growing consensus that whoever reaches Mars first should never return home. A program called Mars to Stay, for which Buzz Aldrin is a spokesperson, proposes that any humans traveling to Mars should either remain permanently or perform a tour of duty of 10 years, rotating with another crew sent a decade later, enabling mankind to permanently settle the red planet and become a dual-world species for the very first time. And since these missions are scheduled to take place in 2 decades' time, who knows? It could be one of you guys watching today who becomes the first human being to visit Mars. And if you do, can I give us a shout out? Good. So those were our top 7 mysteries of Mars. If the idea of becoming the first human to return to our home planet has got you excited, then why not watch our video on the top 7 lost inventions?